Hey everybody, this is Mike Lapon from Symphony X and Mike Lapon's Silent Assassins, and this is SAGAS.
What's going on, everybody? This is Corbin the Serpent Tongue Skipwith.
And this is Ran the Berserker Marabou, and this is
SAGAS.
SAGAS. Welcome,
This is
welcome.
SAGAS. Oh. Just before we get into anything, I do have a bit of a cold, so if I sound fucked up, it's because I probably am. So expect a lot of, the hiccuping started because I just finished dinner, but expecting a lot of hiccuping, probably coughing, and a weird voice. So apologies. Ren will be driving this one most likely.
I'm loving the hiccups already, man. It's fucking,
Yes, but the podcast goes on, and with that, we need to start with Morgoth. So I'll just keep it short and sweet today because I'm going to put on the link. Anyway, Morgoth is a physical published edition of metal drawn photos, interviews, and reviews all into one little place by John Sorrell, the brains behind it all. Yeah, he's done quite a few so far, and only recently have I worked with him. And that one I just showed you was our first SAGAS edition with the little SAGAS logo that he custom made, which is pretty cool. But the next issue and onwards, we are now a permanent collaboration. So expect everyone now to be on the SAGAS edition. So that's pretty cool. I'm gonna put the link up where to find them. Go check them out. It's really cool. Has everything from photos, like imagery, to reviews. I wrote this one. I wrote this one for Ren with the Tales of Rune. For this edition, I told John to make you guys the headlining band for the edition, and there's even me in there. So. And there's John, actually, which I didn't realize until just now. Good old John. He looks like a cowboy. I did interview him. It's on my YouTube, but he looks like a cowboy. It's pretty funny. Anyway, go check out Mr. John Sorrell and his Morgoth. Link will be up below what to search up. And yeah, that's that. So last week, I guess when this comes out, it will be last week. But last week, we got a chance to talk to Fountainhead, a guy from Germany who is a guitar genius, and he was very humble. If you watch it, you'll listen to it, you'll hear very humble guy considering the stuff he was doing at 18, 19. We talked about his first album. Fear is the Enemy. Fear is the Enemy. Great album, obviously, and he was the one that chose Overkill today. So we're talking about Overkill's 1997 album, From the Underground and Below. And before I let you take over, shout out to what's his name? Because I've actually got in contact with the current drummer for Overkill. He's new, Jason Bittner. So I've been talking to him for a bit. He's been the drummer since 2017. Hopefully to have him on one day, I guess, for one of the new albums. And yeah, so shout out to Jason, shout out to Overkill, and I'll take the time to you.
It's actually comical because twice I had COVID and I done episodes and I was just dying, man. So yeah, I feel your pain, man. But yeah, I mean the hiccups are kind of comical as well. Actually, I like that. Right, so Overkill. I wanted to talk about Overkill for ages, and it's just so cool that Mr. Tom Fountainhead chose these boys. First of all, before I go any further, I just want to say what an absolute pleasure it was chatting to Tom last week. Anybody hasn't checked out Fountainhead, check out Fountainhead. He's one of the most gifted musicians I've had the pleasure to ever speak to. It's amazing man, amazing work, and he's I'd say there's lots and lots of music to come from him. He's a new album coming out and such. So check it out. But yeah, today we get to talk about the New Jersey. I feel like we spoke about New Jersey before on the podcast. Probably.
Probably. Yeah.
One of the other thrashers, the Bay Area thrashers. But yeah, so Overkill to me are in the what would you say, like the big seven?
Yeah.
You know, there's the big four, but everybody, forgets or maybe doesn't mention until after the big four, Exodus, Testament, and Overkill, and they're my favorite out of the big bands that came out around that time. But yeah,
Real quick, I
yeah,
just realized we did talk about him. We talked about the original singer from Accept, the new singer. You said he was from New
yeah.
Jersey.
That's what it is, yeah. I know. I was sitting there going, I've definitely said New Jersey. Yeah, I had a bit of a
Deja
bit of
vu.
a moment there. Yeah, that's so funny. All right, yeah. Except, of course, another one of my favorite bands. But yeah. So on this album in particular, Tom went right back to 1997 to one of their coolest albums in a very strange time for the genre, because as everybody knows, grunge was a big thing around this time, and pretty much just took over the music in the kind of typical sense, like you had obviously all the big boys, Nirvana and whatever. We'll talk about Nirvana later on because it's linked in here with this album, funny enough. But yeah, they stuck to their guns, and it was just it's one of my favorite albums of theirs anyway. I was gonna pick their newest album, Scorched, a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't get a chance. And then Tom beat me to the post with this one, but I was delighted to talk about these guys because not only is this a band that I've always admired, but they recently had the guitar player that played in this album. He passed away, Sebastian Marino, and he was such an incredible guitar player. His style definitely helped form everything going on years later. But yeah, he also played in Canadian. I suppose you could call them thrashers as well, but Anvil. I just have so much love for Anvil as well. But he played with them, so yeah, rest his soul and all of that. But I'm going to talk about his guitar playing in a little bit. But yeah, bro, I was super excited and happy to talk about Overkill today. So what did you think first listens?
Well, firstly, I want to say, I can't imagine how it must feel for someone to be you talking about an album. Trivium. But it is interesting because had you have chosen the new album Scorch, we could have had the new drummer come on. That would actually been I thought Jason. But regardless, again, these are one of the bands that I've heard so much about and seen everywhere, but never really listened to them. And I'm actually happy that he chose an old album because I feel like, I can't really talk too much on this because I started Judas Priest in 2016, but I always think it's better to go to their earlier sounds and just see where they came from before going forward. And I know this isn't their first album; they were around in the 80s. Actually, I'm pretty sure if we're talking about not the band's first album, but if we're talking about the band being a band, I'm pretty sure they even precursored the Big Four.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so kind of the same way like Diamond Head, how they were around, like in the Sabbath days. They were around. So yeah, so these guys, even though they're not in the Big Four, they fell shy. They were actually around beforehand. But anyway, besides the point, I don't know what I was expecting with this album because to me, this album kind of shocked me because it kind of, to me, there was I don't know. I think I was expecting more of like a traditional thrash album, something like, I don't know, like Slayer or Metallica or Pantera or something like that. And what I got off this is, at least in the few listens I got to listen to it sounded like, and then also I guess I didn't really consider the year 97. I don't know, I guess it wasn't that early. It was 3 years off 2000, so it was closer to the 2000s than the 90s. But so I guess I should have thought about that beforehand. But it has a kind of a how would I say this, a almost industrial feel to me. Like there were certain elements like not quirky, but like like for example, on the first track, It Lives, how it has like this this what's the word, long like drum passage at the start, and there's like a bunch of stuff like that, like stuff either cutting and stopping and starting, or there was a song I forgot which one it was where it had like I think it was a guitar and then stops, guitar and then stops, and then the first track having that long ass drums. Like there's a lot of quirky elements to this album that I guess I just wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting this album to be as creative as it was, which isn't a bad thing. It's just I mean, in my head when I pushed the play button, I was just expecting just a like a traditional thrash experience. So it did surprise me, which is a good thing. As far as the tracks go, yeah, no, it was it still obviously had that prominently thrash experience, but yeah, as I was going through the track list, I was like, oh, this sounds interesting. So I think my first opinion on this album would be a very interesting listen.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you pointed out it was about a year or two before the big four really, became that. These boys were around, so like, you got to give them massive props for really being in the forefront of this, but it's also really interesting that you said about it sounding a little bit less obvious than what you'd expect. It's there's a lot more dynamics and creative elements in this album, and I think now, still to this day, there's only two members in the band that are still in the band, and that's Bobby and Dee Dee. So that's the singer and the guitar player, or the bass player, sorry. But they write all the stuff, and they pretty much are the creative force behind the band. But I do think on this record that they might maybe gave a bit of the reins to the producer and the mixer and the mastering guys, because this album really sounds like something that those guys would work on. I mean, it was mastered by Howie Weinberg, and Howie Weinberg has worked on some absolutely sick albums. Like, your hiccups are making me laugh, bro. Oh man, I try to ignore them and be professional, but it's just very funny. Howie worked on Nirvana's Nevermind, right? So he mastered that. And he also mastered one of my favorite albums, Polythene by Feeder. And when you listen to those albums and then you listen to this album, you can hear a marriage between the sound sonically. Like, it definitely has this very distinctive mastering sound at the end. And Howie went into the Grammy Hall of Fame for the Nirvana stuff for Teen Spirit. Like, so you can heavily hear his influence on the album, but not only him, but it was mixed by Colin Richardson. And Colin Richardson has worked on, like, you spoke about Trivium a minute ago. Colin's worked with Trivium, Sepultura, Carcass, Fear Factory, Behemoth, all these big, massive guitar bands, So behind the scenes, this album had like a pure pedigree, and I definitely think it lent towards some of the aspects that really stand out as genius, and some of the elements that I'm not overly fond of on this album as well, which you don't find on many other Overkill albums. I'll get to that later on. But it's what always stood out to me was Didi Verney. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. I always just call him Didi. His bass sound is just like, it's like an iconic bass sound, and he's been in the band ever since. And it just traveled all the way through, still to this day, and he's still killing it. So it's a big, distorted, rumbly kind of bass sound, and they give him a lot of breathing room in the songs as well. So that kind of adds to it as well. And I think that's why it also worked. Where they recorded this album was in Stamford, Connecticut, in a studio called Carriage House Studios, which, speaking about bass, the Pixies worked there. And obviously they're synonymous for their bass sound. But also, you mentioned Pantera recorded there, Blue Oyster Cult, and it's these boys being from New Jersey. This studio is like 45 minutes outside of New York, but it's in the countryside. So it's got like this, it's like a beautiful old carriage barn from like the 1900s. It's like this beautiful, beautiful building that's been, thousands of bands. I think there's about 1,000 something like big top names that have worked in the studio over the years. And people you wouldn't even think about, like who was it? I can't remember now off the top of my head. There was one really bizarre name that I didn't mention that worked there. I have to find it on my notes. No, I don't have it. I don't have it. It'll come to me later on, but it was like like a singer from the Supremes or something like that. Diana Ross. That's what it was. It was Diana Ross.
Ah, yeah.
And I was just like, it's just this really cool. There's such a cool history behind this place. It's like a cottage, but like a white, like a white picket fence type white.
Yeah.
It's just super cool, like super cool history behind that. So all of that, my point is, all of that, I think, came together and made this album kind of uniquely sounding, for the good or for the bad. For Overkill fans, there's overlaps of how they feel. And then it was released on CMC International, who is an independent label at the time, as far as I know. I think maybe they just changed over hands with BMG. BMG ended up having the main stake in the company. So it was kind of a weird, a strange time for that, because the main guy that owned this company sold it and he became the minority shareholder or something like that. So it was a very peculiar time and very interesting mix of studio and engineers and stuff that they brought in, and I think that's what ultimately made this album stand out. I think that's probably one of the reasons why Tom might have picked this one over all the other albums.
Yeah. One second. One thing I have to say is thank goodness for editing. I can cut this right out. No one will know. I'm the editor after all.
I hope you leave it in though, because that's pretty funny.
I'll revisit this whole mess. See. Yeah. So I guess in my editing, as we were saying, that never happened. No. It's interesting because I'm just like looking at, because now that I'm using my phone, I use my computer for like the information about the album. It's just funny because like it says in the chronological in the order of discography, it has this album, the 1999 album Necroshine, which, as well as this album, was a reissue for a box set in 2003. That's pretty cool. But it's just funny because, like, this album's called From the Underground Below. Pretty cool, tame name, Necroshine, whatever. And then the album before this, the EP before this, is called Fuck You and Then Some. This is funny. Like, such a harsh, like, thing before it, and then such a mellow title to come afterwards. But no, this is like, it's I found myself a lot of times just like, because this album has great vocals, and this album has definitely great production and great, I was having a good time listening to this. And actually, funny enough, it actually took me a while to find the worst track. It wasn't that every track was like amazing. It's just I was trying to find a track to like justify giving the devil's advocate, and like it was actually harder than I thought, because on my first listen I was like, yeah, but definitely found one, and then I lost it. The song I thought that was, I couldn't find it. So I was going through with the list today, and I was like, I can't. And so I mean, I ended up choosing one, but so I would say, if, considering that, it's a pretty solid album, obviously. I never got to check out the Deep Purple cover. It didn't come up on my end. The Space Truckin'. And apparently there was also a Sex Pistols cover as well. No Feelings, recorded in the session. So I can't see that song anywhere here. But so it is interesting, because you got this very interesting style, and it seems like you're hinting at the fact that they don't always sound like this. So I mean, I wouldn't know. This is my first listen to them, so I can imagine how it could divide the fans. I mean, the reviews, the rating. One place gave them 3.5, 3 out of 5. I mean, and someone gave them like 8 out of 10. So it would be a divided opinion kind of album, but for a first time Overkill fan, first time Overkill listen, yeah, it was interesting to get used to, as I said before, all the different all the different like things they add to it that is a bit controversial. Sorry, not controversial, like unique. But then again, 1997. I mean, I'm pretty sure that would have been around the similar time when bands like fucking 9 Inch Nails started coming out. So I mean, it was leading to that era anyway. So I guess that explains. And I mean, I haven't listened to Necro Shine, but maybe because that's 99, maybe that sounds even more this style than this one does. So I don't know, but just based on this first listen, the year it came out and all this stuff, it does make sense. But it's just, again, I guess maybe in my head, because I was expecting a more conventional thrash experience, I felt a tad bit let down, but that's only because of my own head. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, like I said, I just admitted I found it hard to find a Devil's Advocate track. So it is obviously it is a solid a solid track list through and through.
Yeah, I mean that's it. Like if you were to listen to the first, I mean they've 20 albums, and the first quarter, let's say, or more, are very much like your meat and veg kind of sort of sound. The 90s was a weird time for bands anyway, like I was saying earlier. But also it's crazy to think that Bobby Blitz has had so many health issues as well, like, and he's never once wavered in any way. He's been consistently working through all of this stuff. Like, I don't know if anybody who doesn't know, in 1998, just soon after this album was released, Bobby was diagnosed with a really aggressive nose cancer, which for a singer, like, if that happened to me, I would freak the fuck out. Like, that is scary shit, man. But there's an interesting story behind it as well. Well, not interesting, but kind of creepy almost in a way. He was on tour, and somebody presented him to this witch lady. She just came over to him to meet him, right? And like, Bobby Blitz is a really interesting character, by the way. So if you ever hear anything that he's whenever he's in an interview, he throws in these like gems of like crazy stories. But this was one time he was backstage, and this witch lady came up and put her hands on his cheek and goes, "You're sick. You need to go and get help, medical attention or something." And he was like, "Yeah, whatever, man." He wasn't listening to her. He went back out on the road, and as soon as he finished the tour, he went because this thing was growing on his nose, and it ended up, he said, the size of an eraser tip on a pencil. And that was it. They said, geez, we have to take that out, So as soon as he recovered, though, like real soon after, I mean, he was lucky. They got it before it spread, but they went and they recorded their 10th album, like, soon after he recovered. He was like, right, let's go, and for a singer, the sinuses and the nose is a big part of your vocals as well. Like, it's all part of the whole thing. But then also he, in 2002, had a facial seizure, or a focal seizure, which is like a miniature seizure while he was on stage, as far as like a stroke, like a mini stroke while he was on stage. And he just kept playing. And he says, I don't know, sometimes he wonders, like, he doesn't know what changed, because when you have this was his own words. He said, "I don't know what it changed, because I forget how I used to be." Like, I mean, it's a really minor, I think, stroke, that it doesn't change much about him as a person, but the point is that he likes to take the piss out of himself, and he doesn't take himself too seriously, which I think is a big part of having health issues. Like, he had another health issue when he was on tour in Germany as well in 2014. I think he had pneumonia, and he just keeps rocking. He's one of those like old school rockers that you can't put down. You know, that kind of way. I absolutely love him. I think he's an absolute character, like brilliant. But yeah. So just for this album, I totally agree with everything that, like, for a first listen, it's you're pretty spot on and all of that. You know, that kind of way. It's just goes to show you've a keen ear for music.
Or I'm just very critical. Either one is very true.
Keenly critical.
Yes, that's I don't get the serpentine from nothing.
No.
I'm banned from Facebook more than I want it. More on that probably never. Like I said, first time. Very interesting experience. I guess it does. It's weird because on the genres it says groove metal and thrash metal, but I think I'd probably replace groove metal with like industrial plus thrash. I think that makes more sense, because when I think of groove metal, I think of Pantera.
Yeah.
And Pantera never sounded like this. Not, which isn't a bad thing. It's just these guys kind of sound like they sound like if this band had to go to a dress up party and dress up as Nine Inch Nails. And they're like, oh, okay, we'll throw in some elements. No, that's at least to me. I could be, maybe I'm infuriating some long-term Overkill fan with that comment, but to me, that's just what it sounds like. Like I said, it's just a solid effort, and I love how in the additional personnel it says produced by Overkill. That's just funny.
Yeah.
I don't know. You don't always see that. You just like, obviously normally has someone, but like just a band, just produced by Overkill. Like it's like a middle finger to like everyone else. Like fuck you, we produced it. Which kind of like I was thinking about it, and I know this is completely off topic, but like it makes you like appreciate people like fucking like Prince, who would like record, produce, edit, play the instruments, lyricist. Like what the fuck? Like people are crazy, and obviously these boys did a lot on their own as well. It's just that very promising album. I gotta one day find that Deep Purple and that Sex Pistols cover, because I can't imagine what they would sound like trying to replicate, especially like the vocals of the Sex Pistols, like because they have a very like British, fucking hooligan, like shitty accent. And I think like trying to replicate that's not. I mean, who knows? Maybe they put their own spin on it. But I'll find that one day. But like I said, it's just a solid effort nonetheless.
Sweet, man. Yeah, no, like that's that's pretty much like from the first track, It Lives, straight to a little bit of Murder. Like it's just a beast. It just rips through. Does exactly what you wanted for an album of the time from a band as such. I'll get more into the intricacies of the music, what I felt during the Devil's Advocate. But man, like totally anybody that has never listened to them, I'd be highly recommending them. Not just from their like illustrious, back catalog, but just even give them the support now, because like for a band that's been going for so long, and they deserve all the love and respect, really, like, because they've done everything, And Joe, one of the guitar players in the album, Joe Comeu, do you know what? We should actually make an episode of snippets of me trying to pronounce names. And every name being absolutely brutalized. But yeah, Joe, the rhythm guitarist on he played with the band from like 96 to 99 or 2000 or something, and then he went and joined Annihilator, and like there's so much talent in amongst these guys, and they've had other talented guys from, like, there was one of the lads from Anthrax played with them for a while, they've had a really, really important. They've put an important stamp on music of this genre. But I can't say enough about Tim's drumming on this album. Like, Tim has been in the band since '94, and I think he's still in them. But I know he played up as far as 2001 anyway. I think he's still playing with them. But Tim Malaire.
Yeah.
Tim Malaire. Just broke something there. Yeah, so Tim is just an incredible musician, incredible drummer, and I like it. Like I always say, when I really like a drum track on the drummer's tracks on an album, I could just sit and listen to his drumming. But I do think that the tone of the drums in this might be leaning toward what's giving you the industrial vibe. It's very mechanical sounding. It's very like just. It's got this like almost distorted sound off it. It's cool. But yeah, like the groove thing, there is some elements of Pantera in there, but like, I don't think that they fully are a groove band, but there's elements.
I agreed, and it's always weird associating Phil with the term groove.
Yeah.
It's just a fucking animal. All right, well, let's quickly talk about sponsors. Who do you have today?
Well, today I have two I want to speak about. One is Power Play magazine. I just want to give them a shout out because not in this edition, but the next edition, which is going to be, let me see, what number is this? This is 261. In issue 262, they're reviewing this album here, this Ren Mara album. So anybody that is into that kind of stuff, please check that out. And I'm just saying thank you to them for. I don't even know if the review is good or bad. It's probably bad, but hopefully it's good. But yeah, thank you, Power Play magazine. So maybe next week or the week. Actually, no, it's this is April, so yeah, it'll be next month's edition. So April will be May edition. So yeah, go onto their website, powerplay.co.uk, I think it is, and pick up a copy and tell them Ren Marabou is good. But also, I'd like to give a shout out to my brothers in the Ulster Mead Co. Because they're getting really close to having a new batch of this amazing King of the North mead. And Corbin, when we get this new batch, it's coming your way, brother, no doubt about it. And also, if you're into the beverages and whatnot, drink responsibly. We have this new bar blade, Ren Marabou and the Berserker bar blade. So you can like open your drinks and be a berserker drinking. And that's me for sponsors today. Actually, no, I'd also like to shout out Skull String, because they spent the week at the NAMM show in California, I think, and they just done so well, and I was so happy to see them. They had like a screen with all the artists with all their strings, and they're just super cool people, hanging out with all the famous people as they should, and did a great job representing their brand. So I'm very proud to be part of that. So I just wanted to give them a shout out too.
Well, before I clean my hands of that shit, hand sanitizer, guys, be safe. Today I'm making sure I'm quick because talk about there is only one Elvis, not to be mistaken for there's only one Elton John. No, there's only one Elvis. So Josh Freeman, who we actually have a date now, May 17th, he'll be on the podcast, or May 16th for him. But his Tuesday is our Wednesday, so it works. He'll be on the podcast talking about his latest EP, so that'll be very cool. But until then, regardless of the fact he makes all our merch. No, he did not make this amazing Led Zeppelin, but he did make that. Yeah. That's the Berserker edition, the Bitchin' Solo. Very cool, very cool. And then we have our standard one, which I'm not wearing right now, but it just says, fuck work, listen to the SAGAS Metal Podcast. with our logo at the front or back. No, the back, and then our thing on the front. So go. I'll put the little link up below for DIY clothing, and yeah, make sure go check them out. We'll have you knowing the genius and hard work of Josh. We'll have a lot more coming in. A lot more editions of the Sagas brand coming soon. But make sure to check out his clothes as well because they're also amazing. And yeah, can't wait to have him on May 17th Australia time, Ireland time, and May 16th American time. So that would be cool.
Nice.
Cool. Well,
yeah,
we know what it's time for.
Today I haven't got my usual guitar with me, so it's a fun edition.
Oh, great. Well, kick it away.
The Devil's
That was very anticlimactic. But that's Ren's fault, not mine. I'll just pretend I didn't hear that because I didn't. Quiet as fuck. No. So for my favorite track, which is a bit surprising, only because normally in like thrash albums or heavy albums, I don't normally choose this. I mean, I know the one time when we talked about the Stone Sour album, Audio Secrecy, I know I chose the softer one on that occasion. You'll Always Haunt Me, but that's because it reminded me of my nan. So that's what I figured. But this time, in the same kind of similar spirit, my favorite track is track number 9, Promises. It's the ballad of the album, and I don't know, and that's why I say it's weird. Normally, I choose the harder tracks, the heavier tracks, but this time, you know, maybe that song stuck out to me because it was a bit more like a traditional rock ballad or metal ballad. But yeah, no, it sounded nice. The vocals were amazing. The instrumentation was it kind of reminded me of like it reminded me of like quite a few songs, you know, like kind of like reminded me a little bit of Aerosmith, Don't Want to Miss a Thing. It reminded me a little bit of Megadeth, that French song, Atuli Mende, what the fuck the song's called. Where it starts, I don't know where I was. That's a good song. Yeah, it reminded me of a few different ballads like November Rain, you know. It reminded me of a few things, so I don't know, it just sounded good. Like I said, everything was on point that song, so had to choose that. For me, the least favorite track, which as I already disclosed wasn't easy this time around, was actually track number 4, Genosia. And I'm actually nitpicking on this one because it was how it started that kind of fucked me up. It's like has a weird kind of droney, industrially vibe to it, which I mean isn't normally a bad thing, but compared to the rest of the songs in the album, that kind of just stuck out like a sore thumb. So those are my favorite and worst.
Yeah, I mean, like I this is my favorite. This is why this is my favorite part of the podcast because I love how we listen to music differently. Sometimes it's really cool. I'm just gonna rip through my least favorite to get that out of the way because it's completely contrasting with you, and it was my least favorite song. Was your favorite song? So Promises for me is my least favorite. Now, before I say anything, it is a beautiful song. It is a really nice song. I just and you know, don't get me wrong, I love a good cheesy ballad as well, like I do. But for this particular album, I felt like it was just like it stuck out for you for a good reason. It stuck out for me for a bad reason. But you know, either way, you know, it's a great song in a great album. But it's sandwiched between two of my favorites, Rip and Tear and Little Bit of Murder, and it's like it's just sandwiched between these two fucking belters, like, you know, and it's just that's my only reason, in fairness, because it's such a killer album and I had to nitpick. So yeah, I mean the chorus is beautiful and his vocals, Bobby Blitz's vocals on it is absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, it's catchy, you know, it's just strange in the album, I thought, but You know, it might have just struck you on a time when you needed to hear a ballad. And for me, I didn't need a ballad. I needed the juggernaut to keep going. But yeah, sure. But my favorite, right? I had two contenders. Genosha, as you said. I actually love the I love I love the bass and the vocal. There's just like the two of them rocking it for a little bit. And like I said, I love Dee Dee's bass. I always love this bass. Bobby's vocals are so raspy in that song, you know, and there's so many different displays of musical dynamics and tempo. It's just really cool. Tempo changes, I mean. Fucked is a killer track as well. It's super fast. It's a super fast, aggressive riffathon. With loads of gang vocals, and I love all that all the time. It just kind of gets me psyched up. Actually, can I also mention I did have another least favorite contender in I'm All Right. It probably would have been the one that I would have went for had there not been a ballad, Easy Route Out. But because you were talking about the industrial kind of sound, this song had like this sample voice in it, right? And it just, I don't know, it just sounded a bit Rob Zombie, like 90s Rob Zombie, and it felt to me like that might have been a producer's choice, or I know the boys produce it themselves, but maybe somebody in after thought, oh, we'll throw this on or whatever, like, you know. But so my favorite song is A Long Time Dying. I just think it's a killer track. It starts off with this big wailing guitar bendy thing. It's menacing. It's just got like these big southern vibes to it, like just killer riffs, and the vocals, the guitar playing, the bass tone, everything in that song is just perfect, and the drums are just a pure beast drum track, you know. He goes from like playing like on the one on a straight beat and then a two to a groove. It's just super cool, and that's the song I think has the most Pantera-esque vibes off it. Probably because of the transition in the drums rhythms. But yeah, man, just totally killer time listening to this album. Loved it. At 47 minutes, it's just beautiful. I promise. I promise I will listen to it again.
The song's called Promises.
I promises I'll listen to it again.
And this guy's half past dead. I wouldn't mind a little bit of murder. But unfortunately, it lives.
If only we were in Genosha.
Have a long time dying. No. I'll survive. I'm all right. He's fucked. No. So, what album do you have for next week?
All right. Well, next week is kind of hitting on this kind of vibe, and it's also a band I've wanted to talk about for a long time as well. It's Testament, and it's very hard to pick which Testament album to go for, but I thought I'd go for something that has every kind of vibe that Testament gives, and I went for the 2012 album, Dark Roots of Earth. So it's a killer monster of an album. That's so much I wanted to go for on this album, or songs. I just had a brain aneurysm there, I think. I had a fucking Joe Biden moment there. Let me just turn around and shake hands with nobody.
I always knew you were a pedo. Wait, hang on.
Yeah.
What album do you say?
I forget now.
I need to bring it up.
Yeah, it's my phone isn't working. 2012 album, Dark Roots of Earth.
Okay, cool. Actually, I have I actually have I actually have Chuck Billy on Facebook.
Yeah, he'd be nice to chat to. All right.
Maybe, yeah. I'll see if I can get him on.
Absolutely.
He has replied a few times in the past. But,
Yeah.
no,
Super.
that would be
guy.
a cool, exciting feature.
Oh yes.
Production, Andy Sneap again.
Yeah.
Good old Andy.
What else?
Well, this was a very sick episode. You know what they say though, on Slipknot said it best on the very first album. Well, technically the first album of Corey Taylor. The first song, which has like a bunch of numbers as a song. What does Corey Taylor, whoever's the voice, says? Oh no, sorry, it wasn't on that song. It was on Iowa. It was on Iowa. I forgot the song, but Corey Taylor says something like you can always hear the sick, or something. He says something like that. I forgot. Like I have a brain fire right now as well, but it was like something about sickness and hearing people being sick. But yeah. You have to be sick. You have to be sick. Yeah, that's right. That was the first song.
Right.
You have to be sick. You have to be sick. Yeah. Anyway, this is the 64th, I think. Third.
64th. The 64th.
Wow, I'm too nice.
64th.
I'm just gonna fade off slowly. No. Well, this was the SAGAS Metal Podcast, and as usual, same time, same place, or something.